It started with a noise, not the kind of noise that usually drifts across farmland in rural Kentucky, not the wind rushing through the cornfields, not the distant hum of a tractor. This was a rumble, low, deep, like the earth itself was groaning. At 4:17 a.m., Henry Lawson sat up in bed, heart pounding. 63 years old, widowed, a farmer his whole life. Henry had lived through storms, floods, even a tornado once, but he had never felt the ground shake like that. The earthquake lasted only 40 seconds, but when it stopped, nothing on his farm would ever be the same again. By sunrise, Henry was out walking the fields, checking for damage. The old barn leaned slightly to the left. A few fences had toppled, the irrigation pipes were cracked. But then Henry saw it. Near the edge of his property, past the cornfield, the earth had split wide open. A jagged crack, nearly 6 feet across. And at the center of that crack, a hole, a tunnel. It disappeared into darkness beneath his land. Henry stared at it for a long time. At first he thought maybe it was an old mine shaft, though none had ever been recorded here. But something about the opening made his stomach twist. He couldn't explain it. It just felt wrong. Like the earth hadn't wanted him to see this. By noon, the sheriff arrived. Sheriff Dalton, a big man with a slow drawl, peered into the hole and scratched his head. "Probably just a sinkhole," he muttered. "Happens after quakes sometimes." But Henry shook his head. "No. Look at the walls. That's not nature. Someone dug this." They called the county engineers. By evening, half the town had gathered to stare at the strange new hole on Henry's farm. 2 days later, a team from the State Geological Survey showed up with lights and cameras. When they lowered a drone into the opening, everyone crowded around the monitor to watch. The drone descended slowly, its lights cutting through layers of earth. 30 feet down, 50. Then the tunnel leveled out, stretching forward like a throat swallowing the drone whole. The walls were smooth, too smooth. One of the engineers muttered, "This was dug by hand." The tunnel ran for nearly 100 yards before the drone froze, camera flickering. For just a moment before the signal cut out, they saw something. Wooden beams, old lanterns. A doorway half collapsed. Then the screen went black. Henry felt a chill crawl up his spine. The next morning, against the sheriff's orders, he grabbed a flashlight, a rope, and his courage, what little of it he had left, and climbed down himself. The air was damp, cold, smelled of earth and something older, something metallic. His boots crunched on the packed dirt floor as he moved forward. After 50 yards, he saw the wooden beams the drone had captured. Carved into one of them was a date, 1864. Henry stopped breathing for a moment. The Civil War. Pushing deeper, he found crates. Dozens of them, stacked against the walls. Some had rotted through, revealing old uniforms, rusted rifles, canteens stamped with the Union Army's insignia. This wasn't just a tunnel. It was a hideout, maybe even a forgotten supply line from the war. But then Henry saw the door, half buried in dirt, reinforced with iron, its hinges rusted. When he pulled it open, the beam of his flashlight caught something that made his blood run cold. Inside the room were journals, dozens of them, leather-bound, stacked neatly on a wooden table. The first one Henry opened contained names, hundreds of them, and beside each name, a date. Some were marked with a single word, missing. Others simply had an X. The further he read, the stranger it became. These weren't soldiers' records. These were civilians, farmers, entire families, from towns Henry recognized, and the dates stretched decades beyond the Civil War. Then he found the maps, hand-drawn, covering counties across Kentucky and Tennessee, each one marked with symbols, circles, crosses, arrows leading to caves, rivers, abandoned mills. And at the bottom of every map was the same set of initials, EC. Henry stuffed 3 journals into his bag and stumbled out of the tunnel, heart hammering. When the sheriff read the names later that night, his face went pale, because one of the dates was from last year, and one of the names belonged to a woman who had vanished just 6 months ago. News crews descended on the farm within 24 hours. Historians claimed the tunnel might be connected to a secret network used first by the Confederacy, then by bootleggers, maybe even by criminals in the 20th century. But no one could explain the recent names, or why some of the journals mentioned experiments, or why a locked chest from the deepest room, once opened by authorities, made the governor himself arrive in person. The FBI sealed off Henry's farm within a week. Officials refused to release the contents of the chest, but one reporter leaked a photo before the government confiscated her camera. It showed bones, small ones, children. The nation erupted. Were these victims of a forgotten war crime? A secret cult? A serial killer operating across generations? Henry didn't have answers, but he knew one thing. The land had kept its secret for over 150 years. The earthquake hadn't just cracked the earth. It had cracked history wide open, and what lay beneath would haunt the country for decades to come. Thank you for watching. If you want to get more that kind of stories, press like and check out our channel.